It's going to be looking at like my thumb basically. You're live. Okay, so now the people on YouTube will be able to hear us at least. Um, and then we'll hopefully be able to bring them over to the Twitch discussion. Let's see. Brain Juice asks, is there such thing as a bad title? Well, okay, we can take the value judgment out of it and not call it good or bad, but we can say titles can be optimal or suboptimal. And if you're trying to get a lot of people to watch a video, there is definitely a way to make it very suboptimal. Just like there's a way to make it optimal for the outcome that you want. Now, having said that, the discussion tonight is centering around what the Avengers, and for anybody that's listening on YouTube, because I know you guys can't see me, for anybody that's listening or just tuning in, there is no spoilers in this discussion. I'm talking about the Avengers in a very have nothing to do with the actual plot of the movie way. It's about a conversation that happens and a realization that a character comes to throughout the course of the film. And it's a very powerful one for all of us to understand because I think we are all guilty of what this person was putting themselves through, right? And so there will be no spoilers. In fact, I'm not even though you could guess by the thumbnail who I'm talking about. It has this discussion. I'm not going to tell you who this person is talking with, who says these things to them. I won't even put a gender on it, right? So the idea here that I really want to drive home is it's very simple. Let's get to the bottom line up front, right? What did the Avengers Endgame teach me about success and happiness? Simple. It's that in your life, on the journey that you're on. Let's see, we got some comments on YouTube as well. Don't want to miss that. Hello from Florida, says Mrs. Aaron. And Toa, hey, from Zambia. Hey, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm very glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join me over on Twitch so you can actually, we can see, you can see me over on twitch.tv/Bryant Chambers. Go ahead and take a ride over there if you haven't already. I definitely recommend it because YouTubers, that is where all of my live content is going to go from now on, right? I'm doing kind of these, yo, what's up, live streams over on YouTube just to give you all enough opportunities to hear me say, oh, I moved over here, so that you don't figure it out 10 years from now when YouTube finally decides to show you one of my videos because they either feel sorry for me or they decide, well, let's try Brian's video, all right? Because of that wonderful algorithm that everybody fusses about so much. So the concept here is that you cannot operate in a way. And now when I talk about operate, I'm talking about as a person. So this is going to affect your career, your relationships. It's going to affect just how you carry yourself socially in the world. And how if you're following me, there's an obligation to be a part of this movie, to have a desire and a willingness to give back to the world in a way that's positive. And I'm not saying that you have to be out there, saving nuns from burning churches. That's not what I mean. But you at least have to have a willingness and believe that it's a good idea to give back to the world something positive, right? Otherwise, you're just following the wrong dude, all right? And so if we're going to be able to do that in our careers, in the relationships that we have, just in the social sphere of the things we get up and do every single day in life, we cannot operate outside of the parameters of who we are at the core, right? We cannot try to be somebody else. In fact, I don't even need to quote the movie to have this conversation with you, but I learned this lesson. And it's a lesson that I already know, but it reinforced it when the dialogue in the movie happened, and I was like, oh yeah, I need to remember that. My son, I just took him to GameStop where I purchased a copy so me and my buddy can get back together online of Borderlands, the Game of the Year edition for the PlayStation 4. Glad that they had a physical copy so I can add that to my collection, right? But on the way back from GameStop, my son asks me, hey dad, if you could be any YouTuber, who would you be? And before I answer, he's like, and not you. He's like, if you could be any YouTuber, any other YouTuber, who would you be? I said, son, I would be me. He's like, you can't be you in this question. If you could be any other YouTuber, dad, who would you choose? I said, son, I can't be any other YouTuber. I'm just me. I'm just me. I can't be anybody else, right? There are people who I look up to. There are people who have knowledge, right? And wisdom that I wish I had, but I can't be them. I don't want to be them or necessarily want to live their lives, right? You know, Z1NT3K, thank you for the follow. I don't know what that's actually. Zentech? Maybe that's what that's supposed to be saying. Um, and so he was like, Dad, what other YouTuber would you be? I was like, bro, I can't be nobody else. I just have to be me. There is nobody else that I can be. And that's fortunately something I learned early enough in life so that I didn't derail. You know, I spent a large portion of the early parts of my career trying to be who my parents wanted me to be, right? They wanted me to go to college but not pay for it, so I took a scholarship that was involved with the military. Thank God I did that because the military gave me a lot of things that I could not have learned anywhere else. So I'm very glad that I have those experiences. But it's still, I knew I couldn't sustain a career in it because it wasn't me. I had to be someone else to deal, you know, and I have friends that are still in now. One of my buddies, you know, one of my buddies who, you know, started off as an infantryman and then and worked his way into the special forces. And he was just like, he and I were hanging out, and I'm actually really close with. He's a friend of a friend, right? But we've become friends through a very mutual close friend that we both have, and we were just hanging out. We were doing a training exercise with the special forces group that he was in command of, and he just looks at me. He's like, I said, so what's up, man? You gonna make a career and retire? He's like, as long as they let me stay special forces, bro. He's like, I couldn't go back to the regular army. He's like, I couldn't do it. And I said, I think I get what you mean. You know, it's like I remember coming home from combat to having a whole different chain of command, some of which had never been to combat, and they had all these things that they were worried about. And I'm like, dude, do you understand that we just walked out of the pit of hell? Do you think I give two flying foxtrots about General Flappenbird is going to come down here and do an inspection on our boxes? Like, no, dude, I'm just trying to figure out how to be a human being again after what we did, right? So it's very hard to operate in any type of bureaucracy when you've had, you know, direct warfare experience, if you're not wired to be a person who's part of the bureaucracy. Some people are actually good at it, but you have to know who you are. And so I say that to say, my son's like, who else would you be? I'm like, you can't be anybody else, man. And I think so many of us have parents that are like, well, you got to go to college. And then after college, you got to get quote unquote a good job. Someone please define that for me. How is good according to you automatically good according to me? How does that equate? Like, does it pay a lot of money? I've told you guys 1,000 times that the first job I ever had in my life where I started making six figures, I literally had the thought, and I wasn't going to act on it, but the thought went through my mind, like, if I fall off the fourth floor, like, balcony thing here in this building, I won't die, but I'll break something hard enough to where I can just be on disability and just be somewhere else. Like, I was miserable. And part of that is my own mindset. I take responsibility for a lot of my misery was self-induced, but a lot of the misery was because I was being asked to be something that I was not. I was being asked to morph into a very bureaucratic person that didn't care about the things that really mattered in order to satisfy a political regime of self-interested, egotistical people. And I didn't want any part of that. In fact, it's funny, when I left that place, you know, because there were good people there too. It wasn't all evil. And I remember my boss at the time was like, yo, that promotion that you've been fighting to get, we finally have the means to give it to you. I was like, oh, the promotion to the job that I've been doing for the last 2 years. I didn't say that to him because I had a lot of respect for him. I think he was a good dude. To this day, I think he's a good dude. He's like, we can make it happen. And I was leaving. I said, he's like, if you stay, we can hook you. I said, I won't take it. I said, because one, I don't like the idea of who I have to thank for that, because it's the same person who's been keeping me back this whole time because they don't like me. And they're probably right not to like me. I don't fit here, you know, and it's mutual. I said as a human being, I think they're probably fine, but as a professional, I have very limited respect for them. I had respect for their skills. I just had very limited respect for how they handled situations. And how really I didn't have a lot of respect for how they led. As a person, I thought they were okay. But I've seen a lot of amazing leaders in my life, so I'm a tough critic. But the point is, good job is money. I had that. You know, I remember thinking my whole early part of my career, if I could just get to six figures. And you can't imagine how many young people I work with, like, dude, if I could just get to six figures, and I can sit there and tell them, it's not going to change anything. The number's not going to do anything to you. And inevitably, when I deal with broke-minded people, they're always like, well, you can say that because you got the money. It's like, yeah, and I used to not. So I've been where you are, and I'm here now, right? I've been the dude who thought about, man, now I see why people sell drugs. You know what I mean? Trying to feed families and stuff, right? And at the time, I didn't have a family per se when I was in that person's shoes. But it's like I had to call my brother and ask him for rent money because I didn't have enough, right? I've been there. I've lived in neighborhoods where there's a neighborhood crackhead trying to sell me high heel pumps that he stole from the mall, that I saw him steal from the mall. That's how small that town was. And then they shot that neighborhood up, Jamaican drug gangs. I've been there, bro, and I've been on the other side, and I can tell you, the money doesn't eliminate that angst that you have. Yeah, sure, some bills are paid. There's some peace there. You know, one of my mentors always told me when he had been wealthy, then been broke, and then he was wealthy as a, you know, rock musician, then he was broke he became a minister, then he was broke, but then he built his wealth back up. And he said, I can tell you, man, money doesn't really make you happy, but it does make you comfortable while you're miserable. You know, and he tells stories about getting high and drunk every single night. That's not a person who's happy. That's a person who's trying to either run from something or stop something that they're feeling. And the money made him comfortable while he was doing it, but he was still miserable, right? He said, money will make you comfortable while you're miserable. And so just having the money, yes, it solves problems. I'm not arguing that people who are in financial strain, who get out of that financial strain, that there's, you know, I'd be a fool to say that there's no benefits from that, right? Because there obviously is. But when you're talking about the happiness of the person, because it comes down to understanding psychology and how the brain works, right? And I talk to you guys a lot about the 25 cognitive biases. One of them is called the contrast bias. And in fact, I don't know that that one is a 25, but it's either a logical fallacy or another bias. Contrast bias is, you know, if I could just get here, I'd be happy. And when you just get there, Geeky Boy 22, thanks for the follow. When you get there, you are happy for about a week. Then the contrast bias kicks in, and then you wish you had more. And so you start to figure out that as you go up the ladder of solving some of your money problems that do cause depression and anxiety, I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. But as you, even after you solve those problems, you realize, oh, there's still this void here that I need filled. And you find that void by finding something to dedicate yourself to that matters to you and makes you feel like you matter as a human being. That's the key. Toamia, follow. Thank you so much. YouTube fam, I see you over there lurking. Yes, I'm on Twitch, Miss Aaron. Twitch is Twitch. Let me just come on camera real quick. Twitch.tv/BRYANT Chambers, right? Twitch.tv/my first and last name. And you will join us over here on the live call. And so if you try to do something in your life that is outside of the realm of who you are as a person, right? So your kind of genetic coding personality is part of it. The experiential side of your personality, who you become because of the things you experience, right? Which can be good or bad. Some of it can be you learn more. Like me, if you read 3 books a week, you start to take in a lot of information that reminds you constantly that you actually don't know a lot of things. And so as you do that, some of what we call our personality starts to make some shifts, right? Especially if you consistently behave in a certain way, it starts to make some shifts, right? But also not just the personality, because I think the internet gives a lot of real attention to personality, which I think is important because it can help you understand default settings. But it doesn't take into account values or motivations or, you know, a lot of personality types will try to stereotype that. Yes, how can I help you? I'm on a live call.
I want to know when I could use the phone.
Not right now. Go find something else to do.
Okay.
Thank you. The values, the motivations, right? And then what you're actually good at. What are you genetically predisposed to be good at and to not be good at and to be curious about and to not be interested in, right? And so those are things that have to be taken. And if you spend a lot of your life going against those settings that are built into your heart, soul, and mind, although I'd argue the mind is a part of the soul, um, then you're going to be in a very dark, miserable place. And so, how did I learn that from the Avengers? Well, there's a discussion that happens in the movie. Don't worry, this has nothing, literally nothing to do with the plot. No spoilers. There's a discussion in the movie between two other people, and one says to the other one, "You have to stop trying to be who you think the world says you need to be, and you need to start being you. Stop trying to be what you think everyone around you thinks you should be. Your parents, go to college. You know, if you're Indian, there's like 4 things you're allowed to study. And that's not a racist joke. That's every Indian friend I have or a comedian that I watch, they all talk about that. And sure, there's 4 guys that are the exception to the rule. I'm sure someone on the internet will yell about that because everyone's an attention whore. But the point is, like, your parents, your authority figures, the people who, you know, raise you for better or for worse, put a lot of that on you. That you have to, like I told you, the first part of my life was chasing somebody else's dream. Their dream was, well, he's got to go to college. Yo, I come from a black family, dog, or at least a stereotypical, because I'm not just black, right? And black's not even a thing. That's something we made up for Africans that were brought over here to be slaves, right? And so when you look at, okay, stereotypical black, but he's also white, part Asian, Native American, blah, blah, blah. Point is, like, you ain't not going to school, homeboy, because I lived in a family that, you know, my dad grew up in the 40s, right? My dad that raised me, not my biological father's a lot younger than that, right? He grew up in the 70s, but it's the idea that you're going to school because as a black man, the chip stacked against you, and you got to have all these things. And it's not that that's false. It's just, you know, the world has changed quite a bit since the 1940s when Pops was in college. You know what I mean? Or even the early 1950s. So it's very much, okay, I got to do that. I had no interest in college. None. I wasn't good in school. And by good, I don't mean like Gary Vaynerchuk bad, like I got all D's. My mom would have lit me on fire if I got all D's. But I wasn't good because I didn't really see a point in most. I was good in some classes, the ones that had either really good teachers, which I was fortunate in my life. I had a lot of really good teachers. Or it was a subject like computer science that I was interested in and wanted to show up and do well. But you know, going to college, I'm like, all right, I'll do it because that's what my parents want. And I almost got put out of college. I was terrified because it's like, how do I go home? And then, you know, the night before the big decision of whether I was going to stay or go, what's up, Luke? Thanks for the follow. I talked to my pops. I was like, hey, man, this might be a wrap for me. I don't know what to do. I was terrified to even talk to him. He's like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? I said, man, I let y'all down, man. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with if they start the process to put me out of the ROTC program and then I can't stay in school because that's my scholarship, and you know I'm doing this on my own. I don't have a whole bunch of money just sitting around to go to school. And he said, but you said you don't know what to do. I said, yeah. What do I do? Because then literally in my ridiculous mind, I thought my parents would just put me out. He's like, it's real simple. What you'll do, dog, you will come home. I said, word? He's like, yeah. If you fail tomorrow and you can't make it, come home and we'll figure it out. And that was my first taste of, all right, maybe this irrational fear that I have to be, you know, and my mentor, you know, my senior instructor told me, he's like, dude, you can't be your dad. You got to be you. It's like, are you sure this is right for you? I said, boss, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. I want to do something else. But I said, while I'm here, I'll do what I can. And he said, that's all I ask. And, you know, it worked out. I ended up graduating, all that stuff. In fact, I had to do a 5th year of college because I was a little bit slow. But the point is, I was living someone else's dream for my life. And it worked out. Like, it's not all bad. It's not all a horror story. It's not optimal, but a lot of it, there's an ancient proverb that says God works everything together for the good of those that love him, and everything together, even the hard stuff. It doesn't mean the hard or bad stuff is easy or good. It just means those things can be used. Going through the nightmare of warfare has shaped me in a lot of ways that are very positive. It's why I'm on a call with you guys a lot, because I have a taste of what y'all are going through in a different way. And if you're steadily trying to be this image that someone else gave you for who you are, I can't encourage you enough to go really discover who you are as a person. And that's part of the problem, right? As I'm sitting here telling you, you got to be you. You have to choose a career that lines up with who you are as a person. Or one of two things is going to happen. You're going to be miserable. You're going to be mediocre. Or some version of both of that. All right. And I will caveat that with, if you're okay with working something that makes you miserable, being mediocre, but you can still get happiness in life because you can do other things and not really care about your career, then you don't have to watch the rest of this video. That's okay. That's an okay. I have friends that they're not as ambitious or driven as I am, and they don't. This talk wouldn't resonate quite as much with them because they're able to compartmentalize that part of their lives, like, But for the most of the people who I know follow me, because it's not just a career thing, it's also the relationships you choose, the people you spend time with, the things you do to contribute to the world in some way. And maybe you're at a place in your life right now where you're not ready to contribute to the world because you are trying to get right. That's okay too. There is a requirement as part of this Brian Chambers movement that our whole mission is to leave the earth better than we found it. But if you're not squared away right now, the best way you can leave earth better than you found it is to get you squared away. The best way to be selfless is to be selfish first, right? And those are things that I want you to think about. But like they told this character in the Avengers movie, dude, you got to stop trying to be who you think everybody thinks you should be, and you got to be you. And I did that for a lot of years. Even when I started, on the internet as a writer first, and then I started doing video content, I was always afraid to let all of me out. Not so much because I was afraid that the world would reject me, because I can live with that. I've been in sales. Rejection is something I don't like, and sometimes I do fear. But that usually is with people who I'm genuinely connected to. In the ether, if people reject it, it wasn't so much as I know I have something in me that I can impart to the world in a way that's very powerful and very positive. And if I F this up, I can turn a lot of people away. But I finally had to get to the point where I shook that off and said, you're going to piss people off. One way or the other. Something about you is going to piss people off, and you have to accept it. Not everybody's going to resonate with what you're saying, so you need to go ahead and just be all of what you are. Say the things that are really on your mind, and be honest. And it was never like I was lying, but there were times where I held back. There's times where I hold back now because I'm not ready to talk about certain things with people, about either things I believe, things I've seen. They're still in the cooker, right? And I'm holding it back out of respect for another person, that if I share this thing, it could be damaging or hurtful to them. I'll never do that, right? At least not knowingly or intentionally. Let's see. Ani, thank you for the follow. Much love. So the lesson there is, if you're living a life right now where you're pursuing school or a career or relationships or trying to be a part of something that doesn't suit who you are as a person, your personality, your values, your motivations, your skill set, right, your passions, then you need to start making a plan to change that immediately. And then once the plan is 40% complete, start taking action immediately. And then figure out the rest of the plan through the action and the feedback analysis you'll do as you try things. And then it comes back, right? That's the thing you have to think about. Now, one inherent problem in that is, the first, some people are like, well, how do I know myself, right? I talk about Sun Tzu all the time. Sun Tzu is really the foundation of a lot of the stuff I talk about. His book, The Art of War, where he talks about The person that knows their enemy and knows themselves will never have to fear the outcome of 100 battles, right? Now, that's a warfare example, but you can apply that to life. If you have an intense awareness of the problem you're trying to solve, and you have an even more intense awareness of who you are at the core of your soul, then you know which decisions to make based upon the outcomes that you want to achieve, right? If I had wanted to be a senior executive in the Fortune 500 world instead of the senior executive over my own operation, there were some things I would have had to do that I just wasn't willing to jump through those hoops because I knew now I have to get really amazing at something that I'm going to always be mediocre at. And I mean this specific Fortune 500 company, not all Fortune 500 companies. Certainly, had I stayed in that world, I could have jumped and done other things. But, my mentor helped me understand, like, either you're going to get really good at this or this is where you're going to stay in your career. And I was like, then I got to go because I'm never going to get really good at that. One, I hate doing it. And no amount of me getting good at it is going to change that. Like, I listen to all you guys love doing it and you're amazing at it. And I've learned so much. Like, I am actually decent at it because all of you. I sucked at this before you. Now I'm decent enough to run my own company and make sure I've got someone next to me who's amazing at it, who can advise me. But I know enough to where this person couldn't pull the wool over my, like, if the person was shady, they're not, right? But if they were, I would know, hold up, my mentors and, they taught me enough to know, EBITDA and freaking, lifetime values of customers, like understanding those economic principles. But if you're trying to chase something that ain't you, it's going to be a long race and you lose at the end. Period. And that was my lesson from the Avengers. Let's see. Tuamia says, sometimes I fear I'm just not brave enough to take a stand and say no or yes to what I feel is best for me as a person. So let me, if you'll allow me, let me suggest to you that your problem isn't bravery. Because all brave people are afraid of what you just said. Every friggin' one of them is afraid of what you just said. Me included. I don't know if I'd be willing to do what I have to do in this situation to win. I'm scared about pissing a person off or my family being disappointed in me. I was scared for years to talk the way I talked because I had been a minister. And I'm like, man, I wonder if my church family is going to reject me because of some of the principles that I teach from Scripture are very different than what a fundamentalist church would teach. Right? And I've had even people on the internet get angry with me. I was like, why are you angry with me? We just disagree. Like, I'm cool with you might be right. Like, why is that not where we start the conversation? Interestingly enough, when I started being real, all the people around me were like, thank God this dude said it. Now I can say it, right? Instead of being afraid that they were going to reject me. In fact, they embraced me even more because it was like, yo, I've been thinking this a long time. I'm glad you said something, right? Or I've been out here doing the work, bro. And yeah, everything you're saying is the same stuff we're saying. Don't be afraid. So bravery is not your problem. Courage is not your problem. It's desire. Is the thing you're telling me you want something that you desperately need so bad that you're willing to potentially take an L to win? If you follow me on Instagram, there's a video that I recycle from time, or Tony recycles from time to time. I haven't touched Instagram except responding to comments in 6 months. But Tony recycles one of the videos I do called "Do You Really Want to Win or Just Look Good Losing?" which is actually a rap lyric from one of my acquaintances and one of my favorite artists back in the day. Do you really want to win, or do you just want to look good? Do you want to have the BMW but be in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt so you can look good in front of your friends? Or do you want to drive the Ford Focus until you can build the money to get the Lamborghini and the Ferrari? So you can sacrifice now so you can actually win, instead of just trying to look like you're winning, but really you're losing on the inside. So the fact that you would come on a call and listen to me talk, and you would engage with a bunch of people you've never met and don't know, I have no questions about your bravery at all. None. Because I know from experience, all those things that you are fearing that you think you can't overcome, when you need to overcome them, you will. You know, when you need to overcome them, you will. You know, I have friends right here on this channel who've been to combat. One of them is right here in the comment section, right? And they will tell you that before every firefight, before everything they went into, they were terrified. But they did it because it's what had to be done to keep their friends alive and to make sure that they all got home and got the mission accomplished. When you have to do something, you will. So it's okay to be afraid is what I'm telling you. And is your name Maya or Mia? I'd like to call you by your actual name. I know a lot of people use aliases on the internet to protect privacy. You don't have to answer if that's what you'd like to do. But all right, I just lost all the comments because my browser went nuts, friends. Oh, no, I haven't. That's why I keep it back up on my software. Hold on, just in case I missed something anybody said. So I don't question your bravery. What I question is this thing you're saying you want to do, has it become a burning need? Because when it becomes that, you'll have all the bravery you need to do what needs to be done. Hippie Mo says, I feel exactly the same. I get you, brother. Quack Pew Duck says, I have hit that point. I have just got angry at jumping through of others. I have decided to jump through my own hoops, 100%. And what I'm hoping to do is accelerate the speed at which all of you get there. Understanding that all of you won't get there. Some of you, and by the way, if you are happy doing someone else's dream for your life, you need to change exactly nothing. And if you're happy and you're cool doing that, I am not going to recommend you change anything. It's for the people who are struggling or having a hard time who I'm reaching out to. Tony J says, being myself has always been a struggle for me. Realizing that your natural personality is your biggest strength is still something I'm trying to nail into my head instead of trying to be more like someone else. And so when we try to be like someone else, one, we can't do it. But two, it comes from other people in our lives whom we value's opinion telling us that we either need to be more like this person. Like, I can't tell you how many times when I first started building my business. Actually, I first started building my business before this scenario, but how many times after Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook, my mother would be like, why haven't you built a Facebook yet? You smart. Really? That's what you think I was put on earth to do? Build a Facebook? And she's like, well, he's a billionaire. I said, okay, so let me, again, you think my purpose in life is to have built a Facebook or some other thing that led me to be a billionaire? And the answer is, of course, no. But it's this comparing out. Like, why haven't you done this yet? Well, because that's not my calling, Ma. I'm a mediocre computer programmer at best. I learned that because I went to school for computer science, and I realized in my sophomore year, yep, I'm going to have to manage stuff because nope, am I ever going to be good enough at any of this stuff to be amazing at it. I don't have the attention span for going through processes to be good at those things, right? I can build processes, but if you look at the processes I have in my life, they're extremely short and efficient and are all outcomes driven. It's another military trait that I have in myself. So Raz says, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Cheesy but true. It is true. But we try to be other people because we see things in people that we like. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the people I wanted to be in my lifetime. All the people that I looked up to, like I looked up to one of my coaches was a professional football player named Kurt Govea, and he was a good mentor to me. When he was coaching me while he was still in the NFL. And, my other coaches on that team were all great mentors to me. I was very blessed to have a lot of really good coaches. And, it's trying to be KDX 8300. What's up, man? And it's just, you can't eke out any semblance of real happiness, or maybe you can. If you are not happy, trying to be what someone else is telling you to be, you know, to me that's hell. Like if someone had to define, Brian, you're a believer in God. Do you believe in hell? Well, it's a loaded question. What do you think it is? Having to be something I'm not for the rest of eternity. Having to be something that is not what God put in my DNA. Having to be at the mercy of other people's emotions about me and what I am. And if what I am is not your cup of tea, there's a lot of other tea in the world. And I want you all, if you're not happy trying to live somebody else's definition of your life and success, please do not miss what I'm saying today about you got to figure out how to make the change so that you can pursue a career, pursue relationships, pursue a life giving back to people that allows you to be who and what you are. Now, I am not saying that if you have issues or you're a horrible person, I imagine if you're watching this, you're probably neither of those. All right, if you're a horrible person, yeah, you probably need to change some things about you. It's not like I don't have character flaws that I don't like. I'm just being me. That's why I'm a jerk. Like, no, you're a jerk. And if you want people to want to be around you, which is necessary for human happiness, then you might want to unjerk yourself a little bit. So yeah, that's my lesson from Avengers, guys and ladies. If you're living somebody else's definition of your life, that's, to me, I won't speak for you, but that's my own personal slice of hell that I wouldn't want any of you to have to deal with. I'm gonna go ahead and shut the YouTube talk down. If you guys haven't already moved over to twitch.tv/Bryant Chambers, do so you can catch the rest of this call. I'm gonna be answering questions.